Hey, good morning, everyone. This is my conversation with a faculty member for our educational research class. So I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Michelle Cook. She's a current Vice President for Student Affairs at the University of Georgia. And so, with that being said, I'll just go ahead and dive right into the questions I was able to ask her. To give you a little bit of a background on Dr. Cook, she has her PhD in history from the University of Duke, or Duke University in Durham, North Carolina. And we talked a lot about kind of all the different things that she was balancing while she was pursuing her dissertation. And she did say, all but dissertation um, is really where she kind of realized she wanted to move from being on site in Durham back home to Atlanta, which was home for her. Um, so when she got to that state, she realized that she could do the research really better from home. And so she applied to be an instructor of entry level US history at Georgia State. And she did that for a few years, but ultimately realized she kind of like the more traditional kind of college setting, like the University of Georgia, and as opposed to the urban setting in Georgia State, which is in downtown Atlanta. And so she applied to be a instructor, or actually applied to be an academic advisor at the University of Georgia, and was able to be hired there. Keep in mind, I mean, she still was working on her dissertation as well. So she ended up being the coordinator of academic advising for Franklin College, which is the largest college on the University of Georgia campus. And she was promoted a couple of times within the first few years, and was actually working at night too in a residence hall with a new program that they had where it was kind of like a live-in and residence hall. So they would have additional resources to students while they were there on campus in the residence hall. So she was balancing a lot while she was pursuing her dissertation, and then ultimately completed that. Was promoted to the senior vice provost within the president's office. And when her predecessor retired, she was approached by the current president of the university, Dr. Moorhead, and asked to be the VP of Student Affairs. And this was about four years ago that she was able to move into this role. And some of the other things that I thought was really kind of insightful within our conversation is that she said you really need to kind of know what are you committed to. Like, are you more committed to being a faculty member in the classroom, and if so, is it more like the research component? Would you want to be somewhere like UGA where they're a tier 1 research institution and there's that expectation to be introducing research on a topic that you're teaching on, or is it more the teaching side of things and you really just enjoy being in the classroom? And she said that kind of helps factor into where you ultimately end up. She's also been able to continue to teach at UGA while being the senior vice president for student affairs as well. The second question, I kind of asked, what did you enjoy about the dissertation process? And she had a really cool topic. It was in the 1830s. She was doing research on book clubs for women of color, and she said she really enjoyed the hunt for the research, and she enjoyed, it was exciting being able to find maybe an article or a piece of literature that linked to something else, that linked to something else. So she said that was really a neat thing to be able to do. And she did that in person too. She actually went to Philadelphia, which is ultimately where like her dissertation focused on for that subject matter. But she went to Boston and New York as well. So she said she really enjoyed and was excited about the hunt for the research. She said what was kind of tough was it was very isolating and lonely. And she thought that would be good because naturally she was an introvert, but she realized that was very much a struggle during the process. In terms of the overall experience, she's said there's really, the work is very confined to just you, and you have to have internal motivation to ultimately be able to be successful. And I thought she gave some really good insight into the merger of the professional and her school world. She was really struggling to write her dissertation, and she had a dean that would constantly check in and kind of see how that process was going. So at one point, he had called a meeting and just told her, "Hey, I want you to go and clear the next 2 weeks of your calendar, go home and write your dissertation." And she said that investment, but also knowing that she was accountable to that time investment that he had made in her and believing in her, really, propelled her to write a draft of her dissertation. So I thought that was really neat that she was able to get that support from her supervisor. And I think it helped her to kind of strike a better balance as it related to career and school and everything that goes into that. With the methodology, she said very much it was qualitative. She's a historian, so she's more of a storyteller, and that was really what was the expectation going into the dissertation. So she was able to to follow that. She did say she started really broadly with the research. So originally it was just, looking at these reading clubs for like all over the country. And she had kind of dwindled that down to the three cities that I mentioned earlier. And then as she was doing research and working with her dissertation chair committee, she realized it was enough in Philadelphia. And so that's where she focused her research. And then she said it was kind of challenging at times to ultimately find what individuals were writing because they all use pseudonyms as opposed to using their real names when they were writing. And I just thought that was really cool that she was able to tell a story, and that was able to come out in her dissertation as a historian. And then the final thing, she really talked about words for advice moving forward. She wished that she would have started writing earlier. She felt like she had to have, everything on the subject that could be read needed to be read, and everything that could be researched needed to be researched. So for her, she really spent a lot of time on that, but didn't start like a working draft. So she said she thought it ultimately really would have helped the research go better if she would have started writing the dissertation earlier. Dr. Tolman, I'm pretty sure you've said something similar to us as well. And she also said to know what you're looking for. She mentioned in particular a trip where she went to the University of Michigan and spent like a whole day, her and her family, doing research. And at the end, she just didn't really know how beneficial it was because she didn't really know what she was looking for. But ultimately, Dr. Cook was a great person to interview. She was able to strike a balance with being a faculty member and a staff member and also pursuing her dissertation. So I have a lot of respect for that. And it was a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for listening to my video.